How many discounts does USAA Auto Insurance offer? Too many to say here. Multi-vehicle discount, safe driver discount, new vehicle discount, storage discount, legacy.
How many discounts will you stack up? Visit USAA.com/auto discounts. Restrictions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Temptations Cat Treats. Your cat will come running for the perfectly irresistible Temptations Creamy Puree and Temptations Lickable Spoon Cat Treats. The best time to feed lickable cat treats to your cat is anytime. Feed by hand for a playful moment, in a bowl for a creamy treat, or as a topper to make mealtime fun. Visit TemptationsTreats.com to learn more. This episode is brought to you by PetSmart. Stop by for Yappy Hour with your pet at PetSmart. Save $5 on walk-in grooming services like nail trims, ear cleaning, brushing, and more. No appointment needed every weekday from 2 to 6 p.m. And while you're there, Yappy Hour includes exclusive in-store deals like 25% off pet toys. Visit services.petsmart.com/grooming to learn more.
I'm not the brightest crayon in the box.
Matt, we have finally reached the end of Poodle Hat.
Oh, and what an end it is.
What an end it is. And you had a person that you said, I need to have my friend on for the episode on Genius in France because they have some feelings towards the song. Please introduce our guest.
Yeah, I'll take it from here. So first of all, introducing my friend who you can hear in the background, Lisa Hammer. Thank you for coming on, Lisa.
Hi.
I'm going to give the people the quick, the origin story, I guess, of this, right?
Yeah. Well, it happened on the air. I think it's on an episode.
Is it in an episode? So we had Levi on recently, who is your partner, and we were talking to Levi about, what song were we talking about with Levi?
Was it Girls Just Want to Have Lunch?
No, it was
after
Grapefruit
Diet.
Grapefruit Diet. Oh. Yeah, that's right. But just before that episode, and maybe that was why it was in the air in your house. Out of nowhere, I get an email from you, which is not completely out of, that happens. We email. Yeah, and then you just sent an email and you just said, with Genius in France, you're just like, why is this so mean? You're like, what happened with this song that it was so mean? And we started talking about it, and I was explaining my thoughts on the meanness of this song, which we're about to get into in greater detail. And then at a certain point, I was like, you just got to come on the podcast and we got to talk about this.
I've done my research.
See,
I have it.
Lisa's holding a clipboard of research. You might be the first guest we have ever had to show up with a clipboard.
I am a producer.
There you go. I had to shout that out right away. So
first of all, let's just get to the bottom of the fact that you and I are like playing in two bands together.
Yeah, we'll get that out of the way now.
Get that. Yeah. So I was never a Weird Al fan because I was goth in the 80s and 90s. Yeah, and just marrying Levi has opened me to seeing him live, and I was like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah.
So now he plays it in the car, and we laugh. So I'm not an expert.
That's okay.
And but I was in goth bands like Requiem in White, which was like kind of a Black Sabbath with an opera singer. But you and I are in a kind of a prog experimental band, Fashion Bird Danger Danger, and
that's right.
You played bass on my upcoming album for Radiana.
I did. I sure did. So, super fun. Lisa is a jack of all trades. You do everything. My God. I mean, every time we talk, I feel like you have 4 new projects to tell me about.
It's too much.
Yes, but no,
I know people like that.
Lisa is amazing, but yeah. So you're new to the Weird Al world, which is absolutely fine. We have had people on who are experts on Al and people who are not at all because they're interested in these other things and talk about a song with a lot to talk about.
Yeah, this is a lot.
Yeah.
And it really got me thinking because, I did listen to a lot of Zappa. I'm not an expert, but I did listen to that in the 80s and 90s. So I obviously recognized the music.
Yeah.
And then I started listening going like, oh, they must have had some kind of beef. Because, I usually don't hear him saying stuff like this. So whenever you're ready, I'll tell you some of the research that I found.
Yeah.
So a few things real quick before we dive into lyrics. There's not a ton here, but this album closer, Genius in France emulates the style of Frank Zappa. In fact, Zappa's son Dweezil performs the opening guitar solo to the song.
Yes.
And lyrically, it describes a person who, though rejected everywhere else, finds acceptance when he goes to France. And while all music was not favorable about this album at all, they singled this particular song out as a highlight, calling it one of the most ambitious and weirdest things on the record, and that counts for a lot.
I mean, it certainly does. I mean, you know, we should also just get this out of the way. This is one of the many Al fan favorites that has never been played live.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, and it makes sense when you this is
it's astonishing.
It's an incredibly long piece.
Yeah, nine and a half. What did I wrote down? It's like 9.5 minutes.
I want to say it's like 8 minutes and 50 seconds. It's in that 9-minute range for sure.
It's very, very long. And as we said, like, Al is a big fan of the epic closer, especially at this point in his career. He loves to end the album on a big bang. This is coming off of Albuquerque, one of his most beloved, massively long final songs. Yeah. And this is so dense. I mean, and he is throwing everything. Frank Zappa, someone with a very long career who made dozens of albums. Like, I mean, he is, you were saying, like, to be a Frank Zappa expert, very few people could claim to be an expert on Zappa because it is, you could take a college course on all of his recordings and his career. It's a tall order, but they managed to get in all these different ideas and themes, all while still bashing the French the entire time. Although I want to come back to that because I do think, to me, it's so interesting. Okay, so I'm just going to come out. First of all, when I looked this up, I did find immediately people online who shared your sentiment, Lisa. Like, one of the first comments, someone on Reddit just being like, I don't understand. They described it as an uncharacteristically harsh hit piece.
Yeah, it felt that way to me too.
But this is not the first time that the phrase genius in France shows up. You know what I mean? Like, this is not like Al didn't create this. I think this is, we've talked about before that Al loves to take an old, tired piece of humor, whether it's like fat jokes or whatever, and recontextualize it in some way. And I want to say it goes as far back as like
Jerry Lewis.
It has to stem from the idea that Jerry Lewis is like a god in France.
Can I just give you my deep dive real quick?
Let's let Lisa take the driver's seat for a little bit here.
I like it.
I'm a bit of an expert on prompts. And so my first prompt was...
Great. This is great. I'm so excited.
Interpret the lyrics of Weird Al Yankovic's song Genius in France in one paragraph. Weird Al Yankovic's Genius in France is a humorous take on struggles of an aspiring artist trying to navigate the complexities of creativity and recognition. The song's protagonist experiences a state of confusion and frustration as he grapples with the competitive nature of the art world. While reflecting on his own perceived inadequacies, despite his desire for success, he finds solace in absurdity and embraces his quirks, ultimately suggesting that true genius may lie not in conventional acclaim, but in the joy of self-expression and the unique perspective he brings. The song cleverly blends comedic elements with a deeper exploration of artistic identity and the often bizarre journey of self-discovery in the pursuit of one's passions. What was the scandal was my next prompt. Now, this is where things get really weird because two different prompts gave me two completely opposite answers. So what was the scandal? The scandal surrounding Weird Al Yankovic's song Genius in France primarily revolved around the alleged tensions with the late Frank Zappa over the song's the tension with the late Frank Zappa over the song's themes and use of a musical style reminiscent of Zappa's work. Genius in France features a mixture of rock and avant-garde elements, and some critics and fans noted similarities to Zappa's influence. Although Yankovic has expressed admiration for Zappa and has cited him as inspiration, there were concerns of Zappa's estate might not be pleased with the song, particularly since Zappa was known for his strong opinions about parody and humor in music. We'll go back to that because I do have a question about that. Despite the concerns, Yankovic maintained that his intention was to pay homage rather than offend, yet the controversy illustrated the complexities of artistic influence and recognition in the music industry. Ultimately, Zappa's family has shown general disdain for heretical interpretations of his work, adding to the notoriety of the situation. This is the opposite one.
Yes.
My prompt was, how did Frank Zappa feel about Weird Al Yankovic's song Genius in France? Frank Zappa reportedly had a positive reaction to Genius in France, a song by Weird Al. And Frank Zappa was known to appreciate Yankovic's humor and creativity, and he even gave his permission for the song to be created, which parodies Zappa's music. Yankovic himself has mentioned Zappa in interviews, noting that he admired him as a musician and took it as a huge compliment to have Zappa's work referenced his own. Zappa endorsement reflects a mutual respect in the realm of music. What is going on with ChatGPT? These are two opposite things. In one he's dead, and the other he's alive. So was he alive?
No, Frank Zappa had died. He died in 1993. Long before this song was actually released. So, none of that is... Frank Zappa had no opinion on this track. And if anything, his estate reflected positively. Now, for what it's worth, there is a lot of history. I know that the Frank Zappa family has had a lot of infighting and turmoil over the years.
Okay.
And Dweezil Zappa is the one who is out there... Dweezil is out there performing the music of his father still, and it's like Zappa Plays Zappa was for a long time the name of the touring thing, and
yes,
and
I
Dweezil
remember.
Zappa and a bunch of session musicians would go out and play Frank Zappa's music.
Yeah.
He was sued by his own brother for not giving the family enough of the royalty.
Ahmed
Sued Dweezil, and they did eventually work it out, but it's been a very tough. Dweezil has really painful, horrible sounding stories about after his father died and the family just sold a ton of stuff. That was Dweezil was like, I really feel like we should have talked about this.
Oh no.
But they like Dweezil wanted to make a museum of all of Frank's gear because he had a crazy amount of stuff, and the family was just like, no, we're getting like selling it, put it up on auction, and it just went to bidders. So the history there is mixed. So it's possible that some members of Zappa's family would not be interested in what Al is doing here because Al did not have to pay the Zappa estate because this is a style parody.
So maybe we shouldn't rely on ChatGPT ever.
Maybe that's the takeaway. Well, that was a great episode. Thanks, Lisa.
Bye. I've got notes on both sets of lyrics, by the way.
Oh, there you go. Perfect. I mean, so for what it's worth, I have one just somewhat related note to that is on Al's website, someone asked him about this song and said, did you ever have the opportunity to meet Frank Zappa? And Al says, I just thought this was a very cute little story. He says, I've always been a big Zappa fan. In fact, when I was a teenager, I didn't really care about being famous, but I used to fantasize about how cool it would be if Frank Zappa knew who I was. I finally met Frank while I was working in the mailroom at Westwood One, where Dr. Demento was then recording his national radio show. I got him to sign my tattered copy of Freak Out, and then he in turn asked for my autograph because his son Dweezil, who was then 13, was a big fan of Another One Rides the Bus. It was a very proud day in my life.
Well, that makes me even happier because
so
then
sweet.
Dweezil gets to do...
And then Dweezil gets to play on this.
Oh my God.
Isn't that wonderful?
Amazing. I think I have the vinyl of Freak Out, actually. I do.
Yeah, I have it over here too. I mean, that's like an incredible album.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's great.
so it makes complete sense. Like, of course, Al would love Zappa. Like, this is... Frank Zappa is the godfather of making weird but impressive music.
Oh, yeah.
That generates this, like, a cult following. Like, he creates a universe of his music that you either... And it's, like, kind of a tough nut to crack. I think Al is more accessible than Zappa in almost every way.
Very much so,
But it's one of those things where it's like, if you enter the universe, if you can find your way into that world, suddenly you're in, and you are just... Then you have a wealth of content to go through and devour and enjoy.
So much. Yeah.
So you two are both way bigger Zappa people than me. In fact, Freak Out's the only album I have from Frank Zappa. I would love to own more of his stuff. But I remember, I want to say it was my sophomore year in college, the music teacher, I went to a small commuter campus, but the music teacher at that campus created a course called American Music, and it was like you had to be invited into the class by him. It wasn't a class that you could sign up for because he didn't want it to be this like easy A generic class. He wanted it to be a class where like people who were really invested in music history could actually analyze like what is actual American music, because so much of American music is borrowed from everything else.
Yeah.
So I was one of the 10 students he offered that class to. I was the only one who wasn't a musically proficient student. Like I can like bang out a couple notes on a guitar, but that's about it, versus like everyone else was like multi-instrumentalist people.
Right.
And part of the class was anybody could bring in any song at the start and end of class for us to just like quickly listen and discuss.
Oh.
And the first time I heard Frank Zappa was one of the kids brought in St. Alfonso's Pancake Breakfast, which
my God.
I think is the perfect entryway into like, if you like this minute and 50-second song, you will probably be invested in the rest of this world, because it's so quick, it's so weird, but also like weirdly catchy simultaneously.
Yeah.
Like,
I love that you referenced that song, because actually
I feel like there's a lot of that in Just Genius in France.
There is a Zappa put out an album called Apostrophe.
Yeah.
And that if there's a singular record that is the most referenced probably in this pastiche, it's Apostrophe, which has St. Alfonso's Pancake Breakfast. It has Don't Eat the Yellow Snow.
I love that one.
It's like
which one is Dynamo Hum on?
Dynamo Hum. Oh gosh, I'm not going to remember offhand, but that's a great one too.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I would recommend, I mean, for people who listen to this and are fascinated by this type of music that Al is making with his band, Frank Zappa's Apostrophe is probably a really good entry point. St. Alfonso's Pancake Breakfast is a perfect opening, and it even has this really fast like xylophone or marimba part, which is all over Genius in France.
Genius in France. I was like, oh, that's from that, and that's from that, and that's from that. Oh, wow.
That's,
and all the weird vocal inflections that he does, and
and the
absolutely.
sound effects and the
That I think is the coolest element of when Al does a song like this, right?
Yeah.
Like, because we've talked about it when we've covered like Everything You Know Is Wrong and like Dare to Be Stupid, is that you can literally sit there with a microscope and be like, this lyric is a reference to this song, or like this little guitar riff is pulled from, like, it is almost like Al does. The best way to compare it is like Girl Talk, right? You've ever listened to Girl Talk where this guy is spinning like 3 or 4 different songs at the exact same time and meshing them into a completely unique song through sampling. It's almost like Al is creating a Girl Talk mashup of an artist that he likes, while every single element of it is actually an original composition that's just very slightly inspired by something else. Like it is truly incredible what he does.
It's incredible. You know, and I never understood the talent because, you know, I was super, super pretentious goth, like death rock, you know, Christian Death, Joy Division, Bauhaus. So I didn't, it wasn't even on my radar.
Sure.
But then, you know, like Levi exposing me to it and seeing it live and seeing him play the accordion and all the, I was like, wait a second.
The live show especially is so undeniable with the talent of him and that band, because they can play anything. They whip turn through genres, and this song is a singular song that encapsulates that entire thing in even more of a compact way, where it is just
this is incredible. And then he hooked me in because I listened to a ton of Lawrence Welk polka music since I'm a child. I still do. So then when the accordion stuff came out, I was like, what?
Yes, I've told the story of and this is such a, one day when we finish doing all of the Al records, I feel like I need to digitize this cassette and we can just listen to it as a bonus episode. When I first got into Weird Al, my grandfather was in polka bands and was in like, I guess we call it now New Orleans jazz. I was raised calling it Dixieland music. But
Dixieland. I love Dixieland.
Yeah, I think we've gotten away.
That.
Well, my grandfather was a mummer in the Philadelphia Mummers Parade, which is like a giant like New Orleans jazz festival. So when I started to get into Weird Al Yankovic, he made me a cassette tape of him, and he must have sat there with his record player and just put specific tracks from each record of songs he thought I would like because they were probably instrumental in Weird Al's music. And it was like a little bit of Frankie Yankovic. It was some Spike Jones. It was Stan Freberg. It was like all these weird 30s comedians that Can
you please digitize?
I have to digitize this tape. But like, then you find out like, oh, this was everything that Dr. Demento was playing in the 50s and 60s that Al was being exposed to. Like, my grandfather kind of nailed it. Like when I read like Al's inspirations now, which are easy to come by, were not easy to come by in 1990. It's not like my grandfather like pulled out an interview with Al and just picked random songs. Yeah. So it's crazy how many of these songs get referenced. But I agree with that. Like the Al performances, I'm so excited to finally see a second one after only seeing one in my life. Hey, everybody. Stop us if you've never heard this before. You should see Weird Al sometime. He's great.
He's going on tour this year. Get your tickets.
Let's go. Tickets. Yeah. If you're in Philadelphia, you can see almost every single Al Yankovic fan that's been on this show.
That's true. It's quite a gathering in Philly.
The lawn.
Yeah.
And even if you're a jaded, like pretentious punk death rock goth, like it could actually grow on you pretty hard.
Well, I think that you're an example of that reevaluation that happened. Not during this album. There was not an Al reevaluation happening during Poodle Hat, unfortunately. But like an album or two later, I feel like is when the hey, this guy's great. Attitude really popped off.
Or just in general in your life, right? Where you have this, we've said before, like if you catch it at a certain young age, it is so funny and weird and delightful that I think for like a kid, it is the perfect thing in the world.
See,
and then
that's the irony is that my husband is so much younger than me that when I was a teenage goth, he was like 5.
Yeah, so that's like the perfect age when you're that age and you hear this like weird like spoof of a song that your parents like. You just can't even believe that this exists. Then you get to a point in your teens where you're too cool for it, which I went through that phase as well, absolutely. And if anything, this was the first album where when it came out, I was like, no, I'm really into ska right now.
Right.
But then later on in life, you come back to it, you're like, oh no, this is just undeniably like just the show of talent in what it takes to do this is undeniable. And so that's why now that he's been around for long enough, there's the proportion of people old enough to appreciate him is off the charts. That's why Al is at his most beloved.
It's amazing. And I remember sitting there, I think we saw him like 5 years ago in Forest Hills at the tennis court stadium thing.
Oh, yeah, where he had the orchestra with him, right?
Yeah. And I just remember seeing Word Crimes up on the words on the screen, and I was like, oh my God, this is genius.
Yeah.
And then he pulls out the accordion, they do the polka medley. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, he is amazing. He's amazing. I have back to this particular song one more time. I found a really interesting tidbit, which is that Steve J, who is Al's bass player, who has been Al's bass player since the very beginning, when he first moved to Los Angeles to get started in music, he was moving there specifically to audition to play with Frank Zappa.
Oh.
And he didn't get the job. And then he met Al like a couple years later, and then wound up doing that for the rest of his life. So what a fun thing this must have been for him. There was just a very small footnote there that he had mentioned it before, but like for I wonder how much Steve J helped contribute to this. Al definitely seems like he was also something of an expert on the genre, but and also just everything about this song screams like everyone in the band must have had so much fun making this and putting this whole thing together. Oh
my God.
Yeah.
It's
but
incredible.
I loved that. I love the idea that Steve J, that was the start of his career, was trying to play for Zappa.
Now, but he's still with Al?
Yeah. Al has had the same, with the exception of adding a keyboard player so that Al didn't have to do as much keys playing in his show. He added a keyboard player in the 90s, but his band has never changed.
Wow.
Same drummer, same guitarist, same bass player since 1981. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to say since 1984.
84, thank you. I was going to say the early, he knew Bermuda. Even when he was doing Dr. Demento, his drummer was with him.
Him and Bermuda have been together since the late 70s, early
Bermuda?
80s. That's the drummer. He's the drummer.
Okay.
So John Schwartz is the drummer's name, but he goes by Bermuda Schwartz.
I've heard that. That's adorable.
Yes. And in the earliest Al performances, Bermuda is literally like banging on his accordion case in the studio of Dr. Demento to play the beat for Another One Rides the Bus.
Oh my God.
That's how long they have known each other. They've been friends.
Is that where that song debuted?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Al was doing performances for Dr. Demento. That was the break of him. Yeah, absolutely.
I forgot about Dr. Demento.
Yeah.
Wow.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is?
Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
I think you're on mute.
Workday starting to sound the same?
I think you're on mute.
Find something that sounds better for your career on LinkedIn. With LinkedIn Job Collections, you can browse curated collections by relevant industries and benefits, like flex PTO or hybrid workplaces, so you can find the right job for you. Get started at linkedin.com/jobs. Finding where you fit. LinkedIn knows how.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for this day.
Are your business expenses playing hide and seek? With Uber for Business, the small spends that slip through the cracks, like rides and meals, go right where you need them. Because it integrates with leading expense platforms, you can say goodbye to surprise costs, missing dollars, or chasing receipts. Everything's track downable. Uber for Business. Make small steps that make a big impact. Learn more at uber.com/small steps.
After Zoomies at the dog park, it's time for Drive Up at Target. In goes a big bag of kibble and one squeaky chicken toy for the good boy. Drive Up that's ready when you are, only in the Target app. Just tap Target.
Do you like to laugh, geek out on music, and learn all about that band or artist who had that one song back in the day, but then seemed to fall off the face of the earth? If so, you need to subscribe to One Hit Thunder. Together with an array of interesting and hilarious guests, we do a weekly dive into one-hit wonders like Eiffel 65's Blue, Krayshawn's Gucci Gucci, EMF's Unbelievable, Delamitri's Roll to Me, Los Del Rio's Macarena, Musical Youth's Pass to Dutchie, and even Patrick Swayze's She's Like the Wind. So are you subscribed to One Hit Thunder or what? As Desiree would say, you gotta be. And as K7 would encourage, you gotta come, baby, come and join in on the fun of the One Hit Thunder podcast.
We should go over. This is a weird one because I want to talk about some of these lyrics, and I think we need to just talk about the general themes of this song. It's a very difficult one to go over lyric by lyric, as we sometimes do, because if you look at the lyrics, there's so much of them are like Hum Chakalakas and Humanama, 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 Humanama.
Well, I started with Zappa's lyrics, and my only notes the whole way down are ew, 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 ew.
Yes.
And then who's poodles? I guess that's French people. And then ew. So as usual, I assumed it was just his experience playing in France, like playing in a tent.
Yes.
And just the things. So did the poodle influence Poodle Hat?
So this is a weird, I don't know what came first here. So first of all, Zappa did have songs where he made fun of the French. That's absolutely a thing. Yeah. Frank Zappa did that before Al showed up. So that's a direct influence for why we are here with this parody. I also think there's no way it's a coincidence that this song comes out in 2003. I mean, this is prime time in America for people bashing the French. We're in the middle of the Iraq War. This is Freedom Fries.
Yeah, Freedom
this
Fries.
Is the French would not help us conduct an unjust war.
Illegal war.
Yes, and we made fun of them. I mean, exactly. And so that's like, in terms of the overall theme of this song, it's funny, you guys mentioned it earlier. There is a prevailing theory online that this whole thing is referencing Jerry Lewis, who is...
Well, I have that in my notes.
Yeah, an American comedian who did fine in America, but was beloved in France.
Yeah.
And I had never thought of that before doing the research for this episode. Like, I always thought listening to this song that the joke here is that this guy is lying. It always struck me that this is someone who is admittedly a moron, right? Like every line in this song is he's talking about how dumb he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at least he's better than the French. And to me, that's always how I saw it. I never thought of it any other way. And it was always like, of course, that makes sense. In 2003, that is a mentality that arguably the worst kind of American would have had in 2003, that it was like, oh, well, I mean, I might be dumb. I might be, dumber than a bag of rocks, or any of these like lines that he throws in here. But at least I'm better than the French, who think I'm great. And as if like it's just this an attempt to flex. Now, I could be completely wrong about that, but that's just always how I viewed it. And when I heard the Jerry Lewis thing, I was like, well, that's a more literal read than I ever saw this song as being.
I have notes about some of these paragraphs and some clues. So obviously when I emailed you at first, I thought he was really mad at Frank Zappa and just like maybe they had a fight and I thought it was about Frank, and I was like kind of like, why? But in this first paragraph, I'm thinking it's Jerry Lewis because he's a moron. Mm-hmm. But no, I love Jerry Lewis. But then it said, I'm going to make a big splash when I show up in Cannes. Okay, so he's a filmmaker or actor. But then it goes back to, they see me, they come unglued, and I think it's just blah, blah, snotty and rude and blah, blah, blah. So then I'm like, okay, it's back to Jerry Lewis. But then he says, I'm all covered in ants. So I'm like, who is it, Dali? Salvador Dali? Okay, then we get back to putting up my statue by the Eiffel Tower. My mom, I'm the biggest dork. Okay, so it's not Dali. And then it goes back to my hometown. Where's your hometown? And then my last note is, I'm not good looking. Okay, so he's ugly. There's a clue. Yeah. People say I'm a geek, moronic little freak. Okay, Jerry Lewis. But at the end, it says, they love my body odor, my toupee, my stripy shirt, and my stupid beret. It's a mime.
Al does like mimes too. He's written songs about mimes. It's got it. I mean, so it's possible that this whole thing is just like various different types of misdirects, and it is just a general hitting this more general theme. But I don't know. It always appealed to me the most to think, because that's another, like, as much as Zappa would make fun of the French in his songs for God knows why. I mean, the French have been a subject of derision for as long as they have existed, for any number of reasons that we won't fully get into on this show. I don't know enough about French history to give that full story. But Zappa also, in his lyrics, I mean, he hated everybody.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
he is a mean,
bitter,
Al's not mean. Generally speaking, in his songs, we always say how Al is really great at taking shots and jabbing without being mean.
Yeah, exactly.
It always comes back to this place of like love and respect and appreciation. And in terms of the Zappa side of this, I absolutely still feel that love and appreciation and just the effort that went into making this song.
Yeah.
But it always just struck me as like, it's more just like these people like going after each other, like this guy trying to bring down the French to lift himself up is just another like bit of social commentary of this sad, sad man trying to feel better about his sad, sad existence.
Maybe, yeah. It seemed more about somebody than Zappa's lyrics did.
Yes, and I think that Jerry Lee Lewis, different Jerry Lewis. I think that Jerry Lewis must have been a reference point. Now that you see all that on paper, like that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. But I still think this is overall, like, we've said before, Al is not really one to be overly political in anything he does, but I don't know, the timing of this song with what was happening in the world and with American sentiment at the time is just, I can't chalk that up to a coincidence. I do think he was making a statement, a satirical statement of these people making fun of the French really unjustly.
Okay, that puts a whole new spin on it that I wasn't even aware of. Yeah.
And again, I don't know. Al does not talk about that anywhere. If this is like, he is very reluctant to be firmly political on anything. He has made some statements. We talk all the time about, he has a song called Trigger Happy that is a very, very scathing indictment of gun ownership in America.
Sure, good.
But so much so, it's so scathing that he has never played it live.
You can't. He'll get shot.
Yeah. Exactly. He, at one point, apparently was very close to doing it, and then another shooting happened, and he was like, I just don't want people listening to this and feeling sad
you can't.
at the show. So, but enough of his politics come through in these moments where, like, okay, well, you can tell where he stands on a lot of these things. And to me, this is just another example of that. In that sense, I love that about it. I love that he is being mean satirically, presuming that I'm right about that.
Dumb American.
Exactly.
Bigoted Americans. Yeah.
Yes.
That's a really good spin. I like that. But I'm going to stick by the mime.
He could also be making fun of a mime. I mean, I would love, if that's the case, I want more backstory on that mime. Yeah. We need a whole album, a concept album just about...
He saw one mime and just got so fucking angry.
We got a movie here. A mime struggling on the streets of it's trying to make a living on the streets of Jacksonville, Florida.
And a mime with body odor, apparently.
Oof. Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I'm just glad he wasn't mad. He wasn't fighting with Frank, because that would be sad.
He wasn't fighting with Frank. It does seem like he and Frank, they met. They exchanged autographs, which is adorable.
That's amazing.
Truly adorable. And Dweezil being on the record definitely helps with that claim as well. Yeah, and I don't think there's any. I think it's all love with Zappa. I also did see there was a great a little interview that Alice Cooper, I think, was hosting a radio show, and he invited Al on as a guest.
Oh.
And Alice Cooper says to Al that he considers Al to be the person who has taken Frank Zappa's place in terms of social satire in music.
But not filthy.
But not filthy in the same way. And Al, of course, is like, well, that is beyond flattering. He's like, I wouldn't in good conscience call myself the modern day Frank Zappa, but he does refer to Zappa as an iconic hero, and that Frank Zappa's humor informed a lot of his own.
That's amazing.
And Zappa's humor, again, comparatively, is way more dry and way more biting.
Yeah.
And just so disgusting.
and I mean, there's, if you go back through some of Zappa's lyrics now, I'm saying a lot. Boy, is it like shocking stuff for someone. I mean, Zappa was also a really odd guy. He was also very politically mixed up and I would be. I mean, he died in 1993, right? So it's like a whole other universe in terms of like what politics looked like. But he was, I guess, probably what you would now call just like a very libertarian guy. Like he was very, Frank Zappa is responsible for, he advocated really hard for free speech in music. And he advocated against
the PMRC. I remember that whole thing.
He was the biggest person against censorship, against advisory labels and all that kind of stuff. And he was also famously like not a drug user or a drink. Like he was a very like straight laced, like by a lot of measure, a conservative guy, but also was extremely serious about free speech and no censorship and no government intervention in art.
And he warned us about the theocracy that we have now.
He sure did.
Back then, it's just.
Did I ever tell you, Matt? Feels like the appropriate place to tell this story. Have I ever told you my weird theory? That I don't think I've ever publicly put this out there because I feel like it would be trashing something that I actually love. But have I ever told you my theory that Caddyshack directly leads to Donald Trump?
Oh my God, how?
So here's my theory, and hear me out on this, because I don't believe that this was the intention of the people at National Lampoon. Knowing the people who grew up in National Lampoon, who wrote that movie.
You think it's Caddyshack and not Reagan?
Hear me out. All right. So if you think about the movie Caddyshack, it is a movie where a bunch of like stuffy, like knows better than the rest of the world people get taken down a notch by a loud billionaire played by Rodney Dangerfield, who just is like an obnoxious douchebag. But when you watch that movie, you love him and he's the hero of the film and he has all the best lines and everything. But then when I think about everything that Trump ran on, he's just positioning himself to be the Rodney Dangerfield in the country club type situation. And that the kids of the 70s and early 80s who grew up loving that movie see Rodney Dangerfield in Donald Trump now.
Oh no, you guys.
Like, I think
that's so sad.
I think that I have some weight to this theory, and I hate that I do because I love that movie so much. As it's like one of my dad's favorite movies. Loved watching that movie with my dad. Still love watching it.
Do you think that a lot of the media was sort of like starting to be propaganda like that? Because then we had like King Ralph, who was like, you know, like the honeymooners go, you know, become, you know, kind of thing.
The snobs versus slobs thing was big in the 80s.
In the 80s.
And I don't think that it was like, I don't think that any of the people writing those movies thought that the slobs should be in charge of everything. Like, I think that it was, but like the reverse of that is like, yeah, but like Trump in theory is both a slob and a snob. You know what I mean? Like he's
right.
Like he's a buffoon and a jerk, but he's also like does not understand the problems of the normal man. Like in the snobs versus slobs argument, it was always, hey, the you know, the superintendent or the dean of the school doesn't understand what it's like to be like a broke teenager. Like, so it's kind of like that theme got missed over time. But this, again, I have no evidence of this theory. It was just a theory that I had. Like, oh, this whole generation grew up with this concept of.
There was that concept. There was like this switching places, like the rags to riches, or somebody switching places with a rich person. I mean, even the movie Hair, which was that the 80s or 70s, I think.
That's 70s, but yeah.
Yeah, even that was just like these smelly hippies going into these pearl clutching, you know, like GOP homes, and everybody just sort of like hiding their daughters. And, you know, it's just like, exactly. That was really amped up in the 80s because of Reagan, even though he was probably a degenerate himself.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, do we want to, we got a 9-minute song here. I don't know if we want to go through all of the lyrics. Do we just have standout lyrics that we want to shine a light on?
Yeah, we can absolutely, you know, again, this is a lot of like, we said it about Fat as well, where he's using a lot of what you could call street jokes. Not the brightest crayon on the box, dumber than a bag of rocks. As it goes on, I mean, yeah, there are a lot of great lyrics in this song. I mean, I like just to go through them really quick and highlight the some of the highlights for me. I like the he also great rhyming and just clever. Yeah. Like the people say I'm a geek, a moronic little freak, an annoying pipsqueak with an unfortunate physique.
I love that one.
If I was any dumber, they'd have to water me twice a week.
Oh, what's the one about the gene pool having chlorine in it?
Oh, yes. Folks in my hometown think I'm a fool. I got too much chlorine in my gene pool.
I love that.
Yeah, that's a good line.
A few peas short of a casserole, a few buttons missing on my remote control, a few fries short of a Happy Meal, and I couldn't pour water out of a boot with instructions on the heel. I mean, really, like, yeah, the number of fun jokes in this, and some of them I'm sure he repurposed from other places, but a lot of these I had not heard before this song. That boot with instructions on the heel, I think that existed before, but I think this was the first time I ever heard that in a song.
I've never heard that in my life.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. I've never heard that in my life. I love it.
I like I'm about as sharp as a bowling ball.
Yeah.
But they like me better than Charles de Gaulle. Like
the sharp as a bowling ball is like a thing that I've heard people say for years.
That's I had not heard that before. That's a great.
My dad used to say you're about as sharp as a bowling ball. Or the other one that he used to love to say was, is that a head on your shoulders or did your neck blow a bubble? Which is like such an incredibly cutting thing to say to somebody.
Oh my God, I love that.
But yeah, even like I'm not the brightest bulb on the Christmas tree, but folks in France, they seem to agree. They say, bonjour, monsieur, would you like the picture with me? Like the way
I say oui, oui.
Yeah, like, it's so goofy.
I was going to say, for as mean as this can be, especially when you're just looking at it on the page,
Yeah.
Boy, is there just like fun wordplay. The whole thing is just it's like just playground stuff for Al. I love the also like the girls back home never gave me a chance, but I sure enough got them frogs into some kind of trance. and I'm aware that it's a most improbable circumstance, but great googly moogly. Yeah. I'm a genius in France.
Was he a literature major? Like, what was his major in college?
Al?
Yeah. Aside from music.
Architecture.
Whoa!
He has said before that if he didn't get into music, that was the path he was going to take.
Oh my God.
So yeah, no, not writing at all.
He's so good.
Yeah, I love a lot of just great phrases. Again, that great googly moogly, which is a phrase that Zappa had used in the past. So that was him borrowing there. Also, right after that, I just love every Frenchie that I meet just can't wait to kiss my feet. Get in line, pucker up, toot sweet. a phrase you do not hear very often, toot sweet. That is a great...
I always associate, I don't even know if you guys would remember this, great googly moogly, like you said, for you, that's like a thing that Zappa used to say all the time, and I believe that. When I hear great googly moogly, I think of one of my all-time favorite commercials, which was a Snickers commercial, where it's like this build-up. I used to have just the audio clip of this on my computer when you would download like 5-second clips from movies all the time on Napster, and it was this old man on a football field painting the end zone, and then at the very end, one of the players walks up behind him and says, "Man, that's some great work, but you do know our team's name is the Chiefs, right?" And it cuts to like an aerial shot, and he forgot the I, so it says the Chefs.
The Chefs.
And the old man just goes, "Oh, great googly moogly," as he like starts to like repaint the grass. And I used to just have this 5-second clip on my computer of, "Oh, great googly moogly," and when you could set your AOL Instant Messenger to play sounds when certain things happened. For a long time, that was my someone started a conversation with me sound.
Oh, man. I just had to look it up, and Zappa is credited as coining the term great googly moogly.
I love that.
It's just like my God, just an exclamation. Before that, there was an early version from the 50s that was good googa mooga. But that got featured in a song by the Magic Tones. We all know the Magic Tones. I have no idea what that is.
Classic band, the Magic
Tones. But so that existed, but then Zappa's spin on it of the great googly moogly has really kind of stuck around. That's one of those funny things where it's like, I know I've heard that a bunch of times in my life, I would not be able to pinpoint the origin.
I've never heard it in my life.
You've never heard that? There was also there was a rap song from a couple years ago.
Oh, Great Googly Moogly by Project Pat.
Project Pat. Good Googly Moogly. That is a very, very silly rap song.
Yeah. Good Googly Moogly. That thing is juicy.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Everyone check out Project Pat's Good Googly Moogly. You'll have a good time with that. But yeah, this is, Al, again, grabbing that line that I didn't even realize Frank like almost completely coined. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know how to talk about the musicianship on this song without just saying that it is astonishing.
It's astonishing.
Yeah. I mean, this is, we going back to the origins of this whole podcast when during pandemic times, I sat down to learn how to play every single Weird Al song. And when I tell you that I probably spent the amount of time I spent learning this was equal to the amount of time I spent learning everything else.
Yeah, it's out of control.
It was an unbelievably challenging exercise.
Yeah.
There's so much happening in this song. So many ideas, so many unbelievably fast riffs.
I don't know how how did he even find people to even be able to play and interpret his music?
Just having that amazing band.
That amazing band. Yeah.
I just saw the Zappa band a few years ago opening for King Crimson, and I was wondering who was still in the Zappa band at that point a couple years ago, and I never looked it up, but they were a lot of the originals, I think.
So Zappa went through a lot of different lineups, and of course Zappa's first records came out in the late 60s. I mean, He was a very, very he was there at the very beginning of anything you could call progressive rock. But yes, Dweezil does still tour with some old members of Zappa's band from throughout the years.
Did they call it the Zappa? Because it was called the Zappa Band.
So this might have had something to do with all those legal issues because they did have to change the name a couple times. Like I think the Zappa Plays Zappa they couldn't use for a little while, and they had to switch it to something else, and maybe it's back to that now. I'm actually looking right here. In April 2016, Dweezil Zappa announced that he would be changing the name of the band to Dweezil Zappa Plays Frank Zappa in response to a cease and desist ordered by the Zappa Family Trust. Following the October 2015 death of Gail Zappa, control of the trust was taken over by Ahmet and Diva Zappa. The trust holds a trademark on the term Zappa Plays Zappa, which Dweezil had licensed from Gail. So there you go. Then when their mom died, then the siblings all started fighting.
Oh my God! How did Ahmed get control of like a power of attorney like that?
I think he was the oldest, and it got left to him.
Oh my God!
It's
that's a really rough situation.
It's a very, very. According to this, Dweezil Zappa announced a reconciliation with the family in May of 2018. However, an in-depth feature about the family that appeared in August 2024 in the Washington Post, Dweezil declined to participate in meetings with the family. And his wife texted to the author, Dweezil isn't interested in spending any time in the presence of his brother. So
that's a bummer.
It's still really bad. So I don't, even the different names and stuff, it's possible that was even a different group entirely, the Zappa bands that didn't have, I don't actually know, but this.
It had a lot of the original, like it was a lot of older white hair. There was the old black dude I've heard him saying on like everything.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
I don't know anyone's name.
I don't know the name either, but yeah, it seems like the anyone trying to go out there and play Zappa's music in any capacity has been hit with some uphill battles because of certain members of the family who feel like either it shouldn't happen, or if it does, it is with all the money going to him.
That's really sad.
That's a bummer.
It's a tough thing.
Yeah.
But again, God bless Al for his little part of trying to keep this insane music alive. And there's a reason why not many people can do this, because this is a heavy lift for any artist to try to play this type of music. It not only is it hard to play, but it's also like challenging for listeners. It's not the most accessible thing to just like throw on and enjoy.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the only one I have on repeat is Shake Your Booty. That's like the most straightforward stuff,
Yes. Shake Your Booty is a pretty straightforward. I mean, Zappa had there's a song called Valley Girl that was something of a hit, like almost bordered on like a novelty hit. You can, if you listen to Valley Girl, or even talking about songs where he's mean to people, he also had a song called Disco Boy where he really was brutal to the disco movement. Those are like as accessible as he gets. And they border on Al. They are actual like comedic, almost novelty type tracks.
Yeah. Like Bobby Brown. What is that one where he's
Bobby Brown Goes Down?
Which Bobby Brown is he talking about?
Oh, I think at that point it was a made up character.
Oh, okay.
But
that was mean.
That's the lyrics of the lyrics of that song are unrepeatable.
Ram it up the poop chute.
Yeah, there's some really, really rough ideas in Zappa's music. Yeah,
I know it's hilarious.
And then the one other thing I must point out just before we start ranking this guy is it being Poodle Hat. There's a poodle on the cover of the album Poodle Hat, and that was Al's pet poodle at the time, and her name was Bella. And you hear Bella in this song. There is a dog bark in the how you even break down the verses, but you can hear. He sings, "When I'm in Provence, I get free croissants." And then there's a little dog bark in the background. And apparently that was a totally organic, actual Bella barking during the session. And the timing was so perfect that they left it in.
So sweet.
You can hear Al's pet poodle is featured in this song.
That's very sweet.
There you
I love that. Matt, I don't have any clue how I'm going to rank this one. So I'm not sure if you have an idea for what. Usually I go first, but
yeah, I will happily go first on this. This is such a crazy piece. I have to rank it. I am obligated to rank this very, very high.
Okay.
And it is because it is just, I don't think there's ever been a better portrayal of just how talented Al is as a composer, musically as a writer, even again, like as much as like some of the lyrics are mean and hackneyed and stuff, like it's just so unbelievably well done. I have listened to this song so many times. I actually just was driving a couple days ago. I went to a wedding and we were driving a long way back, and I had my music on shuffle, like all my favorites, and this came on, and I just listened to it again in full, and I was like, it is just astonishing.
It's astonishing.
And that's why it is going to be
drumroll
number 5.
Wow.
I am putting it in between Dare to Be Stupid and Hardware Store.
So you're putting this as even the best song on this.
This is my favorite original on this record, and I have Hardware Store right underneath it, which is another original from Poodle Hat that I absolutely adore, that I also think is an unbelievably impressive original piece from Al.
Yeah.
We're really getting to the point now where Al's originals are, the quality is so insanely high. I mean, they have been for a while on and off, but it is just like he is really putting a lot into these, and I love it so much. No, this is, I would challenge anybody. There are not many people in the world ever who I think can write like this.
No.
Even trying to emulate someone else. Like this is just an unbelievably impressive feat of a song, and I absolutely adore it.
All right. Well, mine is not going to be as high as that.
What?
I know. So, I mean, I do like this song. That is not me saying I don't enjoy this song. I very much enjoy this song. But it's not one that I go to visit. When I'm doing my rankings, it's like, what are the songs that I'm like constantly wanting to hear again and again and again? And where I'm fine with the 12 minutes of Albuquerque and like look forward to it, because of the way that Frank Zappa's music is on the impressive level, this can also be a little exhausting at a certain point.
I think that's where you get to the point of like, to me, it is exhausting in the best possible way.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it is every idea in the universe compacted into a 9-minute piece of music. But yes, I can understand how it could be a challenging listen. Zappa's music was always very challenging.
But it tickles the brain in such a beautiful way.
Yeah.
You know?
No, again, I mean, I am not putting this anywhere near the bottom by any stretch of the imagination. But I'm putting it just kind of like smack in the middle. I put it above I Was Only Kidding, but like just to it's below Don't Wear Those Shoes. You know what I mean? Like it's not, which is like as generic pop song as I think Al has ever written. But like that's just kind of the vibe that I'm more into with Al. Matt, before we let Lisa rank, though, we also have to rank this album.
We do. That's true. We do.
Oh.
And this, I feel like we say this pretty often, but this is like difficult to rank in a much different way. Because this album, I think more than any other record we've talked about, has some of the highest highs and some of the absolute lowest lows in Al's career.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely talked about, especially with the parodies on this record. It feels like he really struggled to find things to parody that were that he could really sink his teeth into, and a lot of them feel a little bit like done out of obligation. I am going to put this. Yeah, this is going to be on the lower side, which I expected it was going to be when we started talking about this album, excuse me, and. I will say a lot of things on it I liked more than I remembered.
Yeah.
And some things I remembered them exactly how I thought I did. I'm going to put it... oh, this is so weird. Am I going to really do this? Yeah. No, okay. I'm going to put it in between UHF and Peter and the Wolf.
Okay.
Which means it is above Polka Party and Alapalooza. And
so what number is that?
That is currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's number 9 of his albums. Now, we haven't talked about every album yet. We're moving through the next record.
That was my next question.
So we're going to continue on. But we only have 3 more full-length albums from Al after this.
And I know off the top of my head that at least 1, if not 2 of those albums will knock that out of the top 10.
Oh, yeah. No question.
For you. Like, yeah. And I'm already not even going to give mine a chance to be in the top 10. I'm going to put it at 11. I still like this more than UHF and Peter and the Wolf Carnival of Animals Part 2. But I'm putting this below Alapalooza, which I didn't expect. I mean, when we first did this show, I said if you had put a gun to my head, I would have said that Alapalooza was his worst record. And now here it is in my top 10.
There you go.
And 3 albums sit below it. So this show's definitely helped me recontextualize a lot of Al stuff.
And again, I will say that I think that Poodle Hat is inconsistent, which is also exactly what I said about, I think, Alapalooza and Polka Party. But the highs are higher. That's why I'm going to give it there, because again, right now, looking at my list, like Hardware Store and Genius in France are among my absolute all-time favorites, and I have to just weigh that above those other 2 records for that reason alone. But they definitely fall in the less consistent category for Al.
That's very fair. All right, now, Lisa, you get to do a ranking, and I will bring in the screen share for you.
Guest rankings. So Homage Paradise is one of my favorites.
Well, I would say first and foremost, let's place Genius in France somewhere on this list. So
I would say, like, for me, it's like 3.
All right, so you would put it. We're going all the way to the top here. So you put it right underneath. Eat It.
Yeah, I don't really like the Michael Jackson stuff. I never liked Michael Jackson, so I'd put it above Eat It.
All right, so you're putting it number 2.
Yeah, there we go.
Amish Paradise, Genius in France, and Eat It. Now you can move a song that you think is unfairly too high. You've already mentioned a disdain for the Michael Jackson stuff. You can knock that thing right out of number 3 if you want.
I'd like to move it down below the Nirvana song, please.
Okay. All right.
Move Eat It below Smells Like Nirvana.
That was pretty quick and easy.
That was decisive, Lisa. I love that.
I don't, it's way too mainstream for me.
Yes, I love it.
You know what? I love when something that's everyone's favorite just gets removed.
100%. 100%.
It's like this.
And no one knows what to do with it.
And you know what? Frank Zappa would approve of that move.
He would.
He absolutely would.
All right. Well,
I think I'm the only person on the planet that can't stand the 80s or the later Michael Jackson stuff. I like Jackson 5.
Sure. And who doesn't like the Jackson 5?
I roller skated to Michael's first album, but I just really never cared for that kind of thing.
Fair enough.
Well, Lisa, real quick before we wrap up, where can people go if they want to see some of the work that you've been doing?
Oh my God. Okay, so my music and my bizarre films are on lisahammer.com. I'm also on Instagram as the Lisa Hammer. I do a voice on the Venture Brothers, which I believe is on HBO. I don't even know what it's on. I do Triana on the Venture Brothers, so you can hear me then. And my Facebook is the Lisa Hammer. I guess that kind of covers it.
There you go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, Lisa, thank you for joining us and talking Frank Zappa with us.
Thank you for clearing up my misconceptions.
Oh, man. It was a pleasure. Thank you for coming on, Lisa. This was so fun. So fun.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.